So welcome to this session we've called Riffing on Referencing. Myself as 100 convener and Ciara Murray, our faculty librarian. I'm just going to say to Ciara at the moment that she might be able to see the slides, but I can't. So I don't know if something's happened to the slides. So just bear with us for a moment as we just try and get the slides back. Whilst Ciara's doing that, Ciara's actually controlling the slides because we can't have dual control. I'll just explain to you, as I mentioned in week one's lecture, we thought it might be fun, for us at least, to share our excitement and professional interest in why referencing is important, but it can also be fun. And there are our slides back, which is brilliant. So this is just going to be 10 minutes where we probably just sort of talk to and try and make slightly more lively all of the referencing materials that you will have in various places. And it's also another way of introducing Ciara and in absentia Paul Newnham, because they are people who can help us professionally with everything we do. So, riffing on referencing, I like an alliteration, not even really sure what that means, but I'm going to just hand over to Ciara now, who's got some Q&As for me, and we're just going to try and have a lively conversation, as I say, to share our delight in referencing.
Okay, so here we go. First of all, we thought we'd start off with the question, what is referencing and can it be fun? So Liz, when you're doing referencing on a piece of work, do you enjoy it? What sort of things are involved?
Yeah, I would say we were just having a chat off camera, Ciara and I earlier. Do I enjoy it? Well, no, because normally I am racing to meet a publication deadline, and this is me doing band practice. I'm racing to meet that deadline, and I think, oh, I must spend more time refining my argument, and I will leave the referencing till the last moment. Now, that is understandable, but actually in the longer game, that isn't very helpful because there is going to come a time when I am going to have to look at the referencing. And then I sort of go into this, yes, it's important, yes, it's fun mode, because this is, if I want people to read, other academics or public in general, to read my research, I want them to engender into a conversation with me. And it's not just with me, but all the other scholars, academics, thinkers that I'm using their work, drawing on their work, and actually extending their work. And I want my readers to kind of join into the wider conversation. So if my references aren't accurate and easy working in the way that they should, then how can my readers actually join in the conversation? I also think that referencing is really politically important. I mentioned very briefly in the first lecture that I gave last week, that's week one, that there's a whole politics of referencing. As you go forward into your undergraduate career, you may notice that some critics, some books get mentioned all the time. Other people refer to other similar people all the time. So you can work out there's a kind of group, a club of scholars maybe. What happens, where are other voices? How do other people get referenced? We think a lot about decolonisation, quite rightly, in the academy and in English literature at the moment. And you can also think about decolonising your bibliography. Who are you citing? Who are you always citing? Who are you not citing? So it's fun, but I also think politically important.
Brilliant. So I think there's a certain amount of maybe nervousness or anxiety that comes up around referencing. One of the problems we kind of encounter is that people think that if they do their referencing incorrectly, they're going to be accused of plagiarizing people's work. So I think one of the things that we were hoping to do with this session was just to explain the point of referencing as we saw it, and just to kind of demystify it a little bit and to say, you know, it's while it's important that you fit in with the style that has been assigned to your department, ultimately what it's about is drawing this connection between your work and other people's work, and also just allowing people to find what you've read so that they can sort of recreate almost the research journey that you've been on. And I mean, one of the things that we wanted to flag up from the library is that we do offer a tutorial which just kind of talks through some of the kind of ideas behind referencing, how to go about doing it, because it seems like there's this kind of twofold question of, you know, A, why do I have to do referencing? What's the point of it? And B, given that I do have to do it, how do I go about it? Like, what do I actually do? So I'm hoping that by having a look at that tutorial, it might maybe allay people's concerns a little bit. Yeah.
And I think as well, just going back to my own bad practice, I am not proud of it, but I just want to be honest because of what, you know, what is involved in the writing. You spend so long thinking about your argument that it can seem like references are this kind of utilitarian thing you have to do. That, to be very blunt, is to stop plagiarism, but it's much more than that, as we're trying to suggest. And that's why it's really good, I think, to get into the habits of referencing and keeping good referencing as you go along, so that you're not in the rotten position that I find that I have found myself in. It's far better to kind of do it correctly as you go along as much as you can. And when I mean correctly, I just mean get that page reference right, the paragraph right if it's an online reference. The URL, keep a note of that,
Yeah.
because you know that's important. If we feel time pressured, what isn't going to help is to have to then try and recreate the bibliography, find your references when you're trying to submit your work. So
I think
yeah,
seeing
yeah,
it as part of the kind of ongoing process rather than the bit you
absolutely.
do at the end.
Yeah.
Because I think there's probably, I mean, probably everyone who's done an English degree is going to remember times when they've been frantically searching for a book that they knew they'd read something interesting in, and thinking, what was it? What, I didn't write down the page. I know I've done it. So it does. It's just part of that kind of getting used to that process of keeping track of what you've read. And you know, there's a couple of things I wanted to show people in terms of being able to track and keep track of the information that you've seen. But one of the I just wanted to kind of go back to what you were saying about building on kind of existing scholarship, and to see it as something kind of exciting, because it's now, you know, what you've got to say in your essays matters, and your voice is important, and you are going to then be part of this tradition of scholarship. I've made reference here to something in a letter from Isaac Newton to Robert Hooke, and I think people may well have come across this quote because it's certainly kind of around a lot. The idea of if you've seen anything, if you've seen further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants, and he's just kind of making a point that his discoveries are coming because he's built that on top of what other people have been researching. So I think that's quite an exciting way to look at it, that you know, you're actually becoming part of this tradition of research and scholarship.
Absolutely, and it's a collaborative exercise. You know, we spend so long. You know, we're told again because of, is this your own work? Yes, it is, of course, but you are indebted and want to be indebted to other people. Ideas, intellectual ideas, academic scholarship just doesn't come out of somebody sitting in a room. And we have been having, I'm just talking directly now to the 100 students I've met this week, directly talking about how do you find your voice? And that's an ongoing process. We've even been talking, Ciara, about the use of personal pronouns. You know, some people have told me that they've been told never to use any personal pronoun
I've
in
heard
a
that
piece of
said, yes.
writing,
Yeah.
which is extraordinary actually, because you don't want to make it completely subjective, because that's an opinion piece and not an academic essay as such. But there are times when if you're citing people and then you want to make it very clear, I think that. So it's just a way of also showing where your voice is coming in and how you are entering the conversation independently, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Now, the other question that we kind of came up against when we were thinking about referencing was this idea of a style guide, because certainly as librarians, we're kind of asked to help people with references, and we come across a huge number of different types of referencing guides, referencing styles. Different departments use different things. And this idea of it being a system, I guess, that's why William Blake's come in there, is he wanted to create a system or be enslaved by another man's. I don't want to suggest maybe that people are being enslaved by the English department's choice of referencing system, but what would you say are the kind of characteristics of MHRA?
MHRA, it might help you to know, stands for the Modern Humanities Research Association, and it is a style guide that was developed by this association many years ago. If you Google MHRA and ensure it is the Modern Humanities Research Association, then you'll see that there's a whole group of people, scholars, who identify under this umbrella term, and the style guide is just one part of that. So not only is it a very sort of subject specific style guide, these are the this is the style guide that, according to some people, is the kind of benchmark. I have no opinion on that. I mean, Ciara asked me the question and I actually couldn't work out why that was specifically, because all style guides should have the same information, you know, who's authored it, the title of the book or the chapter, the publisher, the dates, everything that will have the page numbers, everything that will help you, the reader, find that information. The important thing is then, if you're thinking about from the reader's point of end, that you are consistent in that. It's not just about having all of that information. You have to have it in a consistent systemic order to make then it easier for the reader to find the materials. And so the MHRA is the one that our department's adopted. I think not only because it is the Research Association's guide, but also, and importantly, you can get this guide free online. And so that's a hugely important reason. Yeah. And just another thing, as I'm thinking on my feet here, that of course, many years ago, when we just had books and articles, it was quite a simple style guide. Of course, over the years, we've got, you know, we now want to reference X, Twitter, you know, URLs, social media URLs, TikToks. Yeah. So the style guides have to then adapt and account for these different media. And so an online style guide is brilliant because it's usually very up to date.
I'm just going to pop this here because it kind of makes me laugh. It's this idea that, you know, that somebody wants to come along and create something that might bring all of these different style guides together. And you can see how maybe these kind of proliferate, and now we just have an extra one on top of,
exactly.
Of the ones that we already have.
To give you an insight into, you know, when we publish, so we never ask these questions of journals because they just tell us. So we write our article, we use the system we're used to, that we find the easiest and quickest and one that's almost habitual by now. And then we send it off and the journal either says we hate this, we're rejecting it, or we'll accept it with some revisions and etc. But we also have to then change our style to suit the journal. Yeah. It's as simple or as that, really, as pragmatic as that. I have no idea why some journals choose the ones they do. I suppose the difference is, and I can't remember if our slides cover this, but in this department, we ask students to produce footnote references. I think Chicago uses kind of parenthetical referencing. So that's when you embed your referencing within your essay. We don't do that in this department. We like to keep it, because if you think about it, this is getting pretty specialised now and maybe not so interesting, but when you're writing an essay, ideally you don't want the flow of that essay to be interrupted by parenthetical referencing everywhere, so everything in brackets. Yeah,
it's just minimising the kind of intrusion, I guess, of
again, yeah,
that
for your
extra
reader.
Information. Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Now, I think one of the things that you wanted me to just cover a little bit was how Paul and I, as faculty librarians, might be able to help people with
please.
referencing. If anyone's wondering, what do I do next after watching this video? I wanted to just show people a couple of sort of practical things that they might be able to use when they're collecting their sources and things like that. We've got here the library catalogue, which hopefully most people will have come across by now, and if they haven't, we're going to be running a number of sort of introductory library sessions. I'm just going to do a quick plug. There's one next Thursday in the library from 11:30 to 1 o'clock, just for English literature and creative writing first year undergraduates, and it's really to try and get people feeling confident with locating things in the library, whether it's books, whether it's online resources, anything. We've got such a huge number of things that people can access. We want to make sure that people know they're there and the best way to find them. Now, Liz, I don't know, can you see my can you see OneSearch on the screen?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So I'm going to just log in because then I'll be able to show you what we call an e-shelf, which will be a way for people to kind of keep track of the things that they're reading and have found through the catalogue.
You were asking me, can I see a live version of OneSearch?
No,
I can't see that. I can just see the
okay.
screenshot at the moment.
1 second. Let's see if I can get us to switch across, because I'd like people to just see what it looks like. Here we go. Hopefully this will come up now. Oh yeah, I've got the red border around it. So I think hopefully people can see now. I'm logged in.
Perfect. Absolutely.
Logged in as myself on OneSearch. This is just a sample e-shelf of a few things that I've collected, just for the purposes of demonstrating, really. What you can do is search for something in the catalogue. I'm going to go for Orientalism. And hopefully find Saeed's book. Yes, okay. So what you'll see is the option to pin this to your shelf. So if we do that, it'll come up and I can access my e-shelf just by clicking on that pin at the top there. This will show everything that I've pinned. And what you can do from here is generate a citation. And you can choose your style. So there's various different ones. We're going to, actually, I've got MHRA selected, so that's handy. And what it does, it just automatically produces that citation for you. So it's a little bit of a cheat, I guess, really, but it's about making life easier, I think.
I think it's actually, sorry to interrupt you, really pragmatic, because it just ensures that the information is accurate. For some reason, I have no idea, I find it really difficult to transcribe things accurately when I'm in a hurry. And in terms of this kind of thing, it's really quite important. Otherwise, it's redundant. So this is marvellous.
Brilliant. So that's just how to generate citations in OneSearch. The other thing that people have access to is something called Cite Them Right. And this is a subscription service that the library pays for. And it's a style guide. It offers you tutorials again. It allows you to see how you would do a reference for lots of different types of things. So you mentioned there's now huge number of different sources that people might be using, and it just shows you how you would actually produce a reference. So let's see what it says about a web page, for instance. It gives you the order of the information that you need to put in, and it also gives you examples of what it would look like both in a footnote and in a bibliography. And it gives you the opportunity to try producing your own. So it's modelling it for you, basically, to sort of say this is what's needed, and hopefully that will help people when they come to producing their bibliographies and list of references. So I'm just going to see if we can get back to where we were. Now, I don't think I can see our slides anymore. You can tell I haven't done this very often, can't you?
It changes all the time anyway, a bit like style guides. The
Yeah.
and Teams login, it's always an adventure when you log in.
Okay,
So ongoing developing tool.
So I think that was pretty much everything I wanted to cover, but I've got I want to share this last slide because it's where to go for help, which I feel is important. So let me just open that up and we'll see if we can get that showing on people's screens. Okay, here we go. I think we've got it. It just takes a little while to load again. That's what happens when you want to do a live demo and switch in between.
I think it's about being patient as well, because technology is marvelous, but it goes at its own speed occasionally. Yeah. Okay, over to you.
Okay, so oh no, this is not the right one. This is a preview of what you'll see in next week's session.
Well, that should tempt you. I'm just going to while I just stare at Ciara trying to find
yes, please.
stuff. I would just say that I would just like to thank Ciara for giving up her time. Obviously, you can speed this up to the bits you want. We just thought that it would be helpful too, as well as having all the written materials and then the in-house training in the library, just to hear us. And we truly are. When we first met, we haven't met each other before very much. Our absolute sheer delight at discussing bibliographies. I think we can't really capture that today. but
we were geeking out a little bit, weren't we?
But it's all to do with the curation of materials that extends itself then from referencing through to the library itself. So back to you.
Okay, so finally, thank you for your patience, everybody. This is just a list of different places that you can go for help with either referencing or anything else that kind of comes up over the course of writing your assignments. We, as faculty librarians, our role is to sort of support you with research and finding resources. So we're always delighted to make appointments with people if they'd like a little bit of specialist kind of guidance on getting the best resources out of OneSearch or using some of our databases as well. You've also got the option in OneSearch. There's a chat that can pop up and you can talk directly to the library staff that will be on the ground in the library that day, and they'll be able to pass stuff on to Paul or I if there's some more complex inquiries, but very often they can just give you the answer then and there. We run a sort of library research skills program that goes on through the year, and there are a lot of introductory sessions going at the moment about finding on information, evaluating, deciding whether it's going to be helpful for you, and just what to do with it once you've got it. So those are going on at the moment, and you can sign up through the library events page. We've got a tutorial, as I mentioned earlier, on how to use reference management tools, and there's the option to book appointments with us. And at any point, you're always welcome to just pop into the library and say hello, and people will be very happy to try and help. So I hope it's been useful and that people will feel less worried maybe about their referencing.
And also, I think it's really important that Paul and Ciara are both English graduates and have been there. And to me, this is another career path that you could take, everyone, I'm just saying. But thank you so much for your time, Ciara. I mean, I've learned a lot because things are changing and shifting all the time. And I don't know whether academics can actually keep up to date as much as we really should do. So for me, it's been a real pleasure, and I've learned things. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's been lovely to talk.
I'll try and put some time codes up, everyone, so that you can sort of fast forward if you don't want to hear me and Ciara having a good old geek out. But we hope you do. And thank you so much, Ciara. And
Thank
we'll see
you.
you soon in the library
Okay.
and everywhere else. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
I